Okay, my name is Kate Bell. I'm from Washington, D.C., and I just got to Seattle, Washington, cross-country with the Fishy Food Tour. We drove the lovely art cars you see behind me all the way across the country to Seattle, Washington to promote awareness of genetically modified food and to support the ballot initiative in Washington State for mandatory labeling of that food. So my friend Rika is one of the organizers of the Fishy Tour, and she's been educating me on this issue for a while now. It's fairly new to me. I initially thought, okay, GMOs, science, we're going to improve our food supply. That all sounds good, right? And then I started doing my own research, and I realized that when you actually buy genetically modified seeds from Monsanto, they make you sign a contract that you're not going to do scientific research with them. So essentially what we have is a system where the company that's profiting from this product is blocking scientific research into whether or not it's safe. And instead they're selling it to Americans and using us as a science experiment. It's a little bit like having the tobacco companies in control of all the research determining whether tobacco is good for you, which obviously would not have been a good idea. And what we're doing right now is we're trying to raise awareness and get these products labeled so that you as a consumer can make an informed choice about whether or not you want to eat GMOs. The tour was a lot of fun. We started on the 5th with our kickoff event in DC, August 5th, and we left the next morning stopping in Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cheyenne, Salt Lake City, Chicago, a bunch of other places along the way. We took the cars cross country. Everybody loved them, especially kids. We got a great reaction to the cars, and it's a fun thing. It's a form of positive activism so that people can see something fun and humorous and, you know, we can point out it's an issue that matters to everybody. And it's been a great experience. I'm very privileged to have been able to go cross country with a bunch of wonderful people. We camped mostly at the campgrounds. We had a couple of lovely local activists that hosted us in their homes. For the most part, we were at campgrounds. We actually were eating GMO free as much as we possibly could. So we had a chef on the tour, and he made us food from donations of non-GMO food, a lot of organic food that we purchased ourselves and we cooked every night at the campground. Personally, I drove the tomato a little bit. I also drove one of our 2 support vans that came cross country with us to haul gear and food and stuff like that. We had about 2 or 3 people for each vehicle to drive, and kind of rotated to keep everybody fresh and safe on the road. Oh man, actually the rest stops were surprisingly a lot of fun. Every time we stopped for gas, everybody at the gas station would be looking around, wondering what's going on, wanting to talk to us, wanting to know what the cars were all about. And we actually did a lot of like face-to-face grassroots activism, just stopping to get gas, just talking to people. So that was a lot of fun. We had a homestay in Denver that was really great. It was really nice to get to spend a little bit more time there. We had a great event with a local activist group there that has been meeting every week and working really hard on this issue locally. And it's always great to see them get all excited as well when we come through and support their efforts that they're already doing. So that was a lot of fun. Well, we're all kind of dispersing after HempFest in Seattle, but a lot of people are flying back to the East Coast, to their homes, since we're leaving the cars here to support the initiative in Washington State. I personally am going back to my worldwide backpacking tour and flying to Central America. So I'm going to Belize to do some scuba diving, then I'll be traveling around Central and South America. I'm on sabbatical right now from my job as a criminal defense attorney. I was working in Baltimore for the last 4 years, and right now I'm just traveling around the world, and I'm happy to have had an opportunity to give back while I'm doing that. There are 60-some countries worldwide, 64 countries, thank you, worldwide that require GMO labeling. Almost all of Europe, like lots of other places in the world, but unfortunately not in North America. So the United States and Canada are kind of falling behind here in terms of what other countries are doing. Genetically modified food basically means that they're splicing the DNA from these crops with things like from other plants and even animals like fish. So it's different from the traditional selective breeding that humanity has done for generations and generations. These things are being made in a lab. They're not anything that would be created by nature. And the problem is that we just don't know all of the long-term impacts of what this is doing to the environment. There's a lot of cross-contamination. Farmers that are trying to grow organic and they don't want GMOs, the pollen is coming in from GMO crops and polluting and contaminating their crops. So this is a real problem. the pesticides are a huge problem, where these crops are being made resistant to pesticides like Roundup, which is sold by Monsanto, the company that is probably profiting the most from genetically modified food. And what happens if the farmers are spraying more and more pesticide on these pesticide-resistant plants? They're creating pesticide-resistant organisms that are going to keep destroying the plants, and they're getting more and more pesticides into the food that we're eating. It's virtually impossible to be GMO-free in the United States right now because our sugar that we're eating comes largely from the sugar beet, which is mostly GMO. The corn syrup and other sweeteners that we're eating is coming from corn, which is GMO. Even if you're not eating meat that's being fed GMO corn, you're probably eating soy products, and 95% of our soy in this country is GMO. So it is difficult to avoid them. Eating whole foods and eating organic foods is really helpful. And avoiding processed foods, because that's where you're going to get the majority of your GMOs. But there's a lot of good companies that are voluntarily putting a GMO-free label on their products, so you can keep an eye out for that. And again, also buying organic fruits and vegetables and natural whole foods. Absolutely. Vote yes on 522. This is the mandatory labeling initiative here in Washington State. If this gets passed, it'll be a huge step in the right direction for the rest of the country to see that this is an important issue, that people do care about it, and there's nothing wrong with putting a label on the product. It just gives consumers more information to make an informed choice. So I just want to thank everybody from the tour, Dr. Bronner Soaps for sponsoring us. We all had an amazing time, and remind everyone to vote yes on 522. Thanks.
They're trying to pull the wool over your eyes while you weren't looking. Your dinner was disguised. You won't see it mentioned in the supermarket aisle. It's hiding in the boxes